Chosen one, there is something that has been following you for longer than you should have had to carry it. Something that attached itself to your life during a difficult season and refused to release its grip even as the seasons changed around it. Something that you have learned to accommodate, to work around, to function beneath, to such a degree that you have almost forgotten what it felt like to live without its weight pressing down upon your shoulders, your spirit, and your sense of what is possible for your life. You know exactly what this heaviness is. You have felt it in the morning before your feet hit the floor, when the weight of the day ahead arrives before the day itself does. You have felt it in moments of prayer, when your words feel like they are rising through thick resistance, rather than ascending freely into an open heaven. You have felt it in the middle of what should be joyful moments, when something unnamed pulls at the edges of your peace and refuses to let you rest fully in what is good. You have felt it in the quiet of the night, when sleep eludes you and the weight of everything you are carrying settles onto your chest with a familiar and exhausting presence. That heaviness has a name in the spiritual realm, and more importantly, it has an expiration date. And chosen one, that expiration date is not somewhere in the distant future. It is not a relief that must wait for some other season, or some other level of faith, or some other set of circumstances to align before it can arrive. The expiration date of the heaviness that has followed you is now, and the lifting that you have been waiting for, praying for, believing for through every difficult season of its occupation in your life has already begun. Right now, while you receive this message, the heaviness is beginning to lift. How the heaviness arrived to fully receive the freedom that is unfolding over your life right now. Chosen one, it helps to understand how the heaviness arrived and established itself in the first place. Because the enemy does not announce his strategies. He does not arrive with obvious and dramatic declarations of what he is attempting to do. He works subtly, incrementally, using the natural pain and disappointment of human experience as the vehicle through which he introduces spiritual weights that are designed to outlast the circumstances that originally produced them. The heaviness likely began with a specific event or season in your life, a loss that was deeper than what your heart knew how to process, a betrayal that struck at the foundation of your ability to trust, a disappointment so significant that it did not merely hurt, but actually changed the way you approached every subsequent experience. A prolonged season of unanswered prayer that gradually shifted the posture of your faith from open expectation to guarded hoping. A failure that the enemy used to write a narrative over your life that you have been unconsciously living underneath ever since. In the immediate aftermath of that originating event or season, the heaviness felt appropriate. Grief is supposed to feel heavy. Disappointment is supposed to carry weight. The period immediately following a significant loss or betrayal or failure is not supposed to feel light. The heaviness in those early moments was not the enemy's work. It was the natural and appropriate response of a heart experiencing genuine pain. But the enemy is an opportunist. He watched the natural heaviness of your grief and your disappointment and your processing of pain, and he worked to extend it beyond its natural season. He worked to attach the weight of those legitimate, temporary feelings to your spirit in a way that would cause them to persist long after the season that originally produced them had passed. He worked to transform what should have been a temporary experience of weight into a permanent companion that redefined your sense of what normal felt like. And gradually, over time, you adapted. You learned to carry the weight. You developed spiritual and emotional muscles specifically shaped by the ongoing effort of functioning beneath a heaviness that was never supposed to be permanent. You became so skilled at managing the weight that you almost stopped noticing it as something foreign to who you are. It became part of the landscape of your daily experience rather than an intruder in it. But chosen one, the heaviness was never yours to keep. It was never a permanent feature of your life or a fixed element of your identity. It was an imposition from an enemy who saw an opportunity in your pain and exploited it with the specific intention of keeping you functioning beneath your full capacity for as long as possible. And today, by the authority of the God who sees everything the enemy has done and has declared enough, that imposition is being removed. Why the lifting is happening now, the lifting that is beginning over your life right now is not random, chosen one. It did not begin because a spiritual calendar arrived at your turn or because heaven ran out of other situations to attend to. It is happening now for specific and deeply personal reasons that are connected to who you have become through the very seasons of carrying what you were never supposed to carry. The lifting is happening because your spirit has done the work that produced its own freedom. Through every season of prayer under the weight, through every act of worship offered from beneath the heaviness, through every decision to trust God despite the pressure, through every step of faith taken while carrying what felt like an impossible load, your spirit has been building the interior strength that now provides the foundation from which the lifting can occur without leaving you spiritually unstable in the absence of what you carried. This is an important truth, chosen one. Sometimes the heaviness is not removed immediately because the interior work that the removal requires has not yet been completed. Not because God is withholding the relief out of indifference or cruelty, but because a life from which a long-carried weight is suddenly removed without the interior preparation to handle the freedom can sometimes be as disorienting as the weight itself was oppressive. God, in His wisdom, allows the interior preparation to be completed before He removes the weight, so that the freedom that follows the removal is sustainable rather than temporary. Your interior preparation is complete. The strength built through every season of carrying what you carried is now the foundation from which the lifted life will operate. The faith developed through every act of trust beneath the heaviness is now the posture from which the free life will move forward. The intimacy with God deepened through every prayer offered from under the weight is now the relationship from which the restored life will draw its daily sustenance. You are ready for the lifting, and the lifting is already beginning. What the lifting actually feels like, chosen one, it is important to describe what the lifting of long-carried heaviness actually feels like as it begins, because it does not always announce itself in the dramatic and unmistakable ways that people expect a significant spiritual release to manifest. Many people miss the beginning of their lifting because they are waiting for a sudden and overwhelming sensation of freedom that does not match how God typically works in the gradual and thorough process of spiritual restoration. The lifting begins as a quieting. Before you feel the weight leaving, you notice that the weight is being less loud than it has been. The heaviness is still present, but it has lost some of its voice. The thoughts it used to generate at high volume begin arriving more softly. The anxiety it used to produce automatically in certain situations arrives with less intensity. The resistance that prayer previously moved through begins to feel slightly thinner. These subtle changes in the intensity of the heaviness are the first evidence of the lifting that is already underway. Then the lifting begins manifesting as unexpected moments of lightness, brief windows in your day when the weight is simply not there. Moments when something catches your attention in a way that pulls you fully into the present experience without the background noise of the heaviness competing for your awareness. Moments when laughter comes easily and fully, rather than being filtered through the muffling effect of the weight you have been carrying. These windows of lightness will initially seem fleeting, almost too brief to build hope upon, but they are significant. They are the evidence of the heaviness losing its continuous grip and the lifting beginning to create space in your experience that the weight previously occupied. Then the lifting begins manifesting as a returning of desire. One of the most devastating effects of long-carried heaviness is the dampening of desire. The things that once excited you stop exciting you. The dreams that once burned in your spirit become dim. The passions that once defined your engagement with your own life and purpose become muted. And when you have lived with that dampening long enough, it begins to feel permanent, as though desire itself has been permanently reduced in you. But as the lifting continues, desire begins returning. Interests that went dormant begin awakening. Dreams that seemed extinguished begin flickering back to life with a warmth and a clarity that surprises you. Passions that were buried beneath the weight begin surfacing with a freshness that feels like meeting yourself again after a long absence. This returning of desire is one of the most beautiful and unmistakable signs that the heaviness is genuinely lifting rather than simply shifting. Then the lifting manifests as a restoration of hope. Not the fragile and conditional hope that characterized the heavy seasons, the hope that tried to believe while constantly bracing for disappointment, but a deeper, more settled, more resilient hope that is grounded in the experience of having survived the heavy seasons and discovered that God was faithful through every one of them. A hope that does not require perfect circumstances to sustain it, because it has been tested in imperfect circumstances and proven real. What God is replacing the heaviness with, chosen one, the lifting of the heaviness is not simply the removal of something that should not have been there. It is simultaneously the installation of something that should have been there all along, and that was prevented from fully occupying its rightful place by the weight that the enemy imposed. As the heaviness lifts, God is actively replacing it with specific gifts that belong to the life of a chosen heart living in the freedom of His presence. He is replacing the heaviness with a peace that passes understanding. Not the peace that comes from having resolved all the difficult circumstances. Not the peace that arrives when every question has been answered and every uncertainty has been removed. But the supernatural peace that is the actual presence of God filling the space previously occupied by the weight of spiritual oppression. A peace so real and so settled that it will confuse people who know what you have been carrying, because it will not match the circumstances they can see from the outside. He is replacing the heaviness with a joy that is independent of circumstance. Joy is not the same as happiness. Happiness is an emotion produced by favorable circumstances, and it leaves when the circumstances change. Joy is a spiritual reality that exists in the presence of God, regardless of what is happening in the surrounding environment. As the heaviness lifts, the joy that is the fruit of genuine relationship with God will begin filling your experience in a way that the weight previously prevented. This joy will arise in unexpected moments. It will arrive without obvious cause. It will persist through circumstances that previously would have extinguished it. He is replacing the heaviness with a clarity of vision and purpose that the weight obscured. When you carry heaviness for a long time, it narrows your field of vision. Your focus contracts around the weight itself and the effort of managing it until the broader landscape of your life and calling and purpose becomes difficult to see clearly. As the weight lifts, your vision will expand. The larger picture of your life will come back into focus. The purpose that has been forming through every season of carrying what you carried will become visible in ways that will fill you with an understanding of why the journey took the shape it did. He is replacing the heaviness with a strength that is qualitatively different from the strength required to carry the weight. The strength developed through carrying heaviness is real and valuable, but it is a contracted strength, the strength of endurance under pressure. The strength that replaces it as the heaviness lifts is an expansive strength, the strength of freedom operating at full capacity without the drag of imposed weight. You will notice this new strength as a capacity to engage with your life and your purpose and your relationships with an energy and a wholeness that the heavy seasons prevented. A word to the one who has almost forgotten. What light feels like perhaps the most tender portion of this message is directed specifically at those among the chosen ones receiving this word today who have carried the heaviness for so long that they have genuinely almost forgotten what life felt like before it arrived. Those who can no longer clearly remember a version of themselves that woke up without the weight already present. Those for whom the lightness being described in this message sounds more like a fairy tale than an accessible reality, because the distance between where they are and where this message is pointing them seems impossibly vast. If that is you, chosen one, hear this word spoken directly into the deepest and most tired place of your spirit. God has not forgotten the version of you that existed before the heaviness arrived. He has held that version of you in his hands through every season of the weight. He has protected the core of who you are and who you were created to be from being permanently defined or diminished by what you were never supposed to carry. And the lifting that is beginning right now is going to reveal that the version of you that existed before the heaviness is not lost. It has been preserved. It has been waiting beneath the weight for the moment of its emergence. And as the lifting continues, that preserved and protected version of you will begin surfacing with a freshness and a wholeness and a beauty that will leave you in tears of recognition and gratitude. You are about to meet yourself again, the real you, the free you, the you that God created before any enemy imposed any weight. And that meeting will be one of the most profound and healing experiences your spirit has ever known. Stand still and feel it lifting, chosen one. As this message draws to its close, there is one thing that is being asked of you in this moment. One simple and profound response to everything that has been declared over your life today. Stand still and feel it lifting. Not with striving, not with performing, not with the effort that the heavy seasons trained you to always be exerting. Simply stand still in the presence of the God who has declared the end of the heaviness over your life and allow the lifting to happen. Open your spirit to the reality that right now, in this moment, something that has been pressing down upon you is being released. Allow your awareness to rest in the quiet truth that the weight is beginning to move, that the grip is beginning to loosen, that the space inside your chest where the heaviness lived is beginning to fill with something lighter, cleaner, freer, and infinitely more aligned with the life you were actually created to live. The lifting has begun, chosen one. The heaviness that followed you for so long has met its expiration date, and the life waiting on the other side of the lifting, the free, purposeful, joyful, peace-filled life that God prepared for you before any weight was ever imposed is closer than it has ever been before. Breathe. It is lifting. And what replaces it will be worth every moment you endured beneath it. Type Amen if you feel the lifting beginning in your spirit right now. Share this message with someone who has been carrying heaviness too long and needs to know that God has declared its expiration date.